Story 1. Trucking and hauling refrigerated freight. As long as you all keep eating, I will be okay. Story 2. Work for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Projects cancelled. Last day is September 1st. Yes, Earth science, global warming, and international collaboration. Since this gained some attention, here is a petition we started to see if we can influence the appropriations committees. If anyone wants to sign, we appreciate your support. Story 3. Major bank senior executives view the current administration as very favorable. However, talk of economic downturn is causing whispers of caution. Artificial intelligence is a major topic, but most opinions fall between savings and just outsource. Story 4. I live on a pension. A few years ago, I was doing okay, not great, but surviving. Now, if not for my children helping out, I would be living on the street eating instant noodles all the time. Story 5. I work in film and television. I have never seen it this bad in my life. Story 6. I am retired on a fixed income, nervous and angry that this situation is the retirement I worked my whole life for. Jesus. Story 7. I am a paramedic who responds to emergency calls. Healthcare has collapsed, and we are all struggling in the aftermath. People do not have access to primary care and rely on emergency care as their only option. The emergency healthcare system is not designed for this and resists adapting. Bad situations happen everywhere. Whatever negative event you associate only with certain areas occurs in every community. There are many horrific situations in your community that you are unaware of. We do, but we can only do so much. It is shocking how some people live. Every day, more people live in these difficult conditions. Story 8. Awful. I am unemployed, laid off from the technology sector. My field was heavily affected by budget cuts. Whatever small scraps of employment are available are quickly taken by the large number of talented people in my field. Story 9. I live and work in healthcare in Appalachia and spend significant time in Asheville and the surrounding areas. I also volunteer for a ministry clinic. Most of my patients are on Medicare and Medicaid or have no insurance at the ministry, which is experiencing cuts to services. Approximately 500,000 people will lose their coverage. Many patients have health literacy issues and struggle to navigate the system to access care. Many are independent business owners without health plans from their companies. Many of the people I work with are exhausted. Their chronic health conditions have been worsened by Hurricane Helene. The number of providers relative to patients is decreasing. I am at the stage where I can start applying for residency, and I have already heard talks about cutting residency programs. Where I think it has hit hardest, believe it or not, is maternity and emergency medicine. The saline shortage was a significant issue shortly after former President Donald Trump took office. I have already seen maternity services cut in some capacity as grants have been withheld. Unfortunately, we will not fully understand the consequences of recent policy until after the midterm elections because the Build Back Better Act does not fully apply until then. I will try my hardest to provide the best possible care to my patients, but frankly, I have been considering leaving the area because opportunities have become more limited, given the high volume of patients we must treat. In many ways, I understand why there has been a mass exodus of providers from rural areas, a trend that has been ongoing for decades. Story 10. Advertising. Just like in 2007 to 2008, I believe we are the canary in the coal mine. Chief executive officers trying to meet projections cut marketing budgets first. 90% of the senior-level people I know in the industry are unemployed or underemployed. Story 11. I work at a major research university. From that perspective, the economy is in a poor state. People are losing their jobs because of federal policies. Story 12. Farmer, beef cattle specifically. Personally, I am looking at record profits this year. The number of cattle nationwide is down, and prices have been trending upward accordingly. This explains the high cost of beef at the grocery store. If things hold, and I expect them to, I should be getting some pretty good checks between now and the end of the year. Since I keep stockers, my inputs are going to be record-setting too. While I am going to be cashing some good checks, I will be turning the majority of that money around to buy more cattle at the same record prices. I have to keep a consistent rotation of livestock in and out to maintain semi-reliable farm income. I will not lie, I am pretty nervous that it is going to implode at some point. I do not want to be sitting on cattle I bought 1 week for $3.75 a pound, just to watch them drop to $2.50 a pound the next week. It is a matter of when, not if, the cattle market undergoes a sharp correction. I know there is a new minimum for the market as far as pricing goes, but the current prices are unsustainable. Story 13. I work in Las Vegas. Tourism is down and international tourism has stopped. Layoffs are common. The situation is grim. The economy will decline without relief in sight. Story 14. Construction industry architect is not looking bright. Very little new work on the boards or in the pipeline. Luckily, I have 2 major projects under construction that will not be done until 2027 and 2028 respectively, so I am safe for the moment. However, the firm is not replacing people as they leave currently. I think few clients are willing to commit hundreds of millions of dollars to new construction projects in the current uncertain climate. It does not help that construction costs are skyrocketing due to tariffs on aluminum and steel. Story 15. Owner of a logistics company. We have been in a freight recession since 2022. Tariffs and layoffs are worsening the problem. Story 16. I am a pilot for a low-cost carrier. Things are going very badly. I often fly planes that are 1/4 or half empty. We are closing bases and routes. Almost no one except for the 3 major airlines is doing well right now. Story 17. I work in language interpretation. It is as bad as it gets. My company rarely replaces employees who quit. In the past 5 years, I believe over 2/3 of my department left their jobs. Yet work is not as busy now as it was before. I receive weekly emails from management, asking people to take unpaid time off because work is slow. I usually ignore those emails. Normally, the schedulers would reduce my hours, but because I can do the work of 2 people, they make an effort to avoid cutting my hours specifically. I speak both Cantonese and Mandarin. Story 18. I work in the energy sector as an oil and gas drilling contractor. Things are slow, but I have been here for over 20 years. The industry was really bad in 2008 to 2009 and 2015 to 2016, and then of course during the COVID-19 pandemic. Compared to all of that, the situation is not all doom and gloom. However, everything is a lot more expensive now. Story 19. I am an academic librarian in the United States at a small private school that is fortunate to expect increased enrollment this fall semester, but everything still feels uncertain. Story 20. It takes 3 full-time career incomes to run my household. Story 21. I make video games. I think disaster would be an accurate description. I have been laid off twice in the last 12 months and might be laid off a 3rd time this year if I am unlucky. My current salary is roughly 70% of what I was making a year ago. Among friends throughout the industry, there are a few places that feel safe but not many. Layoffs continue almost weekly somewhere, and I do not think that will stop anytime soon. Every job that is posted receives hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants. Story 22. Full speed ahead. I have still got all the work I can handle. I work for a private jet manufacturer. I am serious and do not call me Shirley. Story 23. Finance. Too many significant once-in-a-lifetime events have occurred over my more than 20 years of experience. This is the first time I was able to predict the timing and cause since the 2008 mortgage crisis. I am not Michael Burry. The market crash has not yet fully occurred, but people often forget that the market is reactionary. It rarely predicts outcomes. If things continue as I suspect, the situation will worsen considerably before recovery begins. I am not a survivalist, but I have stocked up on non-perishable food and am building a cash position that includes currencies beyond just United States dollars. Story 24. I own a food truck selling overpriced hot dogs and am having another great year. There are no signs of slowdown. Story 25. Things are really only just now about to start having an impact. Please ask again in 6 months. Story 26. I work in the medical technology sector, and things are good. Our bonuses were affected by poor sales last year, but the company still experienced growth and our yearly raises have not been impacted. Also, I can work all the voluntary overtime I want. Story 27. My focus is maximizing my 401k, individual retirement account, and health savings account every year. I do not think I can buy a house, though. Story 28. I work in mental health services across the state, and we are losing funding. The state plans to privatize our work by transferring it to insurance companies. People are leaving, and the situation is not looking good. Story 29. Technology is scary right now. There is very limited job security, constant reorganizations, and executives pushing for more but not supporting anything that requires financial investment. Do more, cut costs, layoffs every year. I wish I had landed in a different industry. Story 30. A relative of mine had been working over 80 hours per week for years. He recently retired, fell, and passed away. Story 31. The wealthy are purchasing everything and anticipating further hardship. Story 32. Big technology companies' chief executives are riding the artificial intelligence hype and finding reasons to lay off employees frequently. There is about to be a massive shortage of senior programmers because companies are not hiring junior positions, thinking artificial intelligence can just do the job. Story 33. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning repair. People stopped getting maintenance, only calling when it is really hot or cold. We went a month or two with barely any work and had to switch to commercial. Surprise! Half the business park suites are vacant, which had apparently been full in recent years. I need to get into food refrigeration, I guess. Story 34. Baller. Criminal defense attorney. Thanks to the decline of society. Story 35. Automotive manufacturing. The outlook is concerning. There are layoffs, furloughs, and salary reductions. Story 36. I am a middle school custodian. Although we are not laying people off in my district, we are not hiring to fill positions that become vacant. Story 37. Residential real estate. After 2 very bad years, 2025 is shaping up to have the lowest number of transactions in 30 years. Higher prices, slow-moving inventory, and high interest rates have created challenging conditions. Everything seems broken. Story 38. I just got laid off from the Internal Revenue Service. Now is a perfect time to commit tax fraud if you make more than $1 million. There is literally no one to come after you. They are all gone. Story 39. I don't have all the knowledge of the economy. I am 16, but I was on my break and had to pay €5 for a bag of Cadbury's. That is 30 minutes of work overall. Not good. I don't know how people survive. Story 40. Bad. A specific part of the supply chain. Products are not moving, and it is getting steadily worse. Story 41. I work in an industry that sells large equipment to other companies to support their processes. Most are holding their breath, waiting to see how things develop over the next 6 to 9 months. Expect slow to flat growth with little hiring for the remainder of the year. Story 42. Working in search engine optimization and content. Leads still come in, but budgets are tighter. There is more emphasis on immediate return on investment and shorter contracts. It is not a collapse, just cautious spending, with many teams trying artificial intelligence first, then returning when quality declines. Story 43. I am in advertising. It is scary. Clients are cutting budgets, agencies want us to do the work of 3 people, and if you do not, you are gone. No one is hiring. Story 44. I work in water and wastewater treatment, currently for the wine industry. The situation is difficult, and everyone is concerned. Story 45. I work for a large specialized retail business. Our year-over-year sales are strong, but our executive leadership is still focusing on improving efficiency and cutting costs. They are moving as much labor as possible to call centers and using artificial intelligence to provide customer service. They are preparing to increase profits by reducing human labor regardless of whether the economy improves or declines. It is disappointing. Story 46. Scrambling to do as much as possible this year because next year looks extremely bleak in the solar industry. Story 47. Logistics company. The recession word is being mentioned by everyone, from management down. It is slow. Story 48. I work in healthcare. If I were looking at the economy solely through the lens of healthcare, I would describe things as booming. We are hiring for multiple disciplines throughout our department and still offering sign-on bonuses. It is easy to find a job right now, especially if you are clinical staff. Of course, I realize this is not universal. I am just curious to see how things look through your own profession. Real estate, medicine, engineering, technology, gig work, retail, and so on. Story 49. The situation is aggressively mixed and confusing in the healthcare support role. We are still expanding and hiring to support that growth, but the research funding is severely impacted, which could disrupt the economies of scale across the organization. Issues with Medicaid also pose a significant risk to the patient population and the hospital beds we are building or planning to build. It feels like someone just overturned the entire table, and we are watching our dinners float in the air in slow motion. It will be a huge mess, but none of us can predict who will have the worst impact and who will be minimally affected. Story 50. Server. Record low in tips and customers. I barely make minimum wage at times. It is frustrating. I live in a ski town that depends on tourism, and there are not many other jobs available. Story 51. Education. First time returning to work without a contract in 20 years. Story 52. We sell components you use every day and items inside those things that you use every day. It is extremely bad. Did you know that we are the ones paying tariffs? I know it is groundbreaking economic theory that nobody could possibly understand, but I think we are all getting the gist of it. Story 53. I work in alcohol wholesale on the East Coast resort towns. Beer sales volume is down on average 10 to 15% from last year. Most imports are down more than domestics. Growing categories include ready-to-drink cocktails and inexpensive beer. Busch Light, Michelob Ultra, Surfside, and Cutwater are all growing. Budweiser, Miller, Coors, Corona, Modelo, and Heineken are significantly down. Bourbon is down. Tequila is flat to down. Vodka is down. Wine is down. Non-alcoholic drinks are performing well. Delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol hemp beverages are experiencing rapid growth. Story 54. I work in retirement housing. Older people are doing very well compared to the rest of society. Story 55. Paralyzed. There is high uncertainty and low confidence. I have clients slow rolling their bill paying and ignoring due dates, which is a sign they are conserving cash, indicating fear. Story 56. The furniture industry is facing challenges, but we recently had our second-best quarter in the last 5 years due to a strong United States vendor network. Personally, things are going well, but I have some concerns about the longer-term outlook. We are directly affected by the housing market, and the volume of housing sales is trending downward. Additionally, the historical concentration of Standard & Poor's 500 index growth in just 7 companies makes the market feel very uncertain to me. Story 57. Information technology networking. The world still runs on that technology. I am very happy I did not learn to code. Story 58. Large-scale renewable energy. Everyone is unsettled from a policy perspective, but projects keep moving forward because commercial and industrial demand is still robust. The industry has always run lean, so layoffs are rare, but nobody is hiring. We will all have to deal with a shortage of mid-level managers in 5 to 10 years again. Story 59. I work in mortgage collections and assistance. It is bad and getting worse. There are going to be many foreclosures in the next 2 years. Story 60. I work in video post-production on national advertisements. Things are average. The business took a major dip in mid-2022 and has never fully recovered. It seems like many brands are reluctant to commit to large advertising budgets at the moment. Story 61. I work in grants management and nonprofit organizations. Our community has described the current landscape as very competitive, with everyone trying to secure as many opportunities as possible. We used to avoid applying for competitive grants worth less than $50,000, but now we apply for anything available. Our work also focuses on job training, primarily in skilled trades. Our application portal has been overwhelmed and chaotic, similar to a scene from a busy chocolate factory. Story 62. Despite record profits, the company is laying off employees and offshoring jobs. Story 63. Remember that viral post from about 10 years ago about the dog doing twos on the carpet during the night and then the robot vacuum doing its scheduled cleaning? It is like that. Story 64. I work in the automotive field and everything is going well. Story 65. It is becoming increasingly difficult to make a strong business case for new products in United States manufacturing in the powersports, off-road, and agriculture industry. Story 66. Bakery at a grocery store. I do my little tasks and then I leave. I would never make it on my own as is. I am on both disability and supplemental security income. It is still not enough, but I work as much as I am allowed to. Story 67. I work in a nonprofit. We have been warned by surrounding community foundations to expect consolidation, meaning the weakest organizations will be choked off. The pressure to compensate for the loss of federal funds will cause basic human service organizations to struggle. Food banks, community health, clinics, and support for disabled people will require bailouts from donors, which will hurt the arts, culture, and preservation organizations. Many beloved community groups across the country will probably disappear in the next 12 to 24 months. It is like the COVID period without Paycheck Protection Program support. Story 68. Slipping near the inflection point of an exponential drop. Story 69. Food. But I am not paying $5.80 for 0.3 ounces of dill weed. I ordered 1 ounce for the same price. Story 70. I work in automation for information technology. We are laying off everyone we can to increase profits from artificial intelligence productivity increases. Everyone is working more than 50-hour weeks to show they should not be in the next round of layoffs. Story 71. Everyone is rapidly cutting policies, procedures, and regulations. It's as if they know something I don't. Story 72. I fix recreational vehicles and motorhomes. Things have not been very good lately. The political climate in the United States has caused many of my Canadian and European customers to stop coming, and the vacationers I work with closely are not returning this year. They make up about 20% of my winter customers, which is already a very seasonal job. Story 73. Electrical engineer in power distribution. I cannot keep up with the amount of work we are receiving. Story 74. We sell tools to the electrical utilities industry. Things are going great. Story 75. I own a small restaurant. A year ago, we were packed every day at lunch. Now, I am lucky to make payroll plus half my bills. It is a difficult time to be in the industry. People are cutting back harder than ever. Drinking is down to historic lows, and product costs are outrageous. I expect approximately 30 to 50% of family-owned restaurants to close in the next year without a significant change in the economy. Story 76. I work in taxes and things are pretty good. It's a fairly recession-resistant industry because no matter how bad things get, some people have no choice but to utilize a tax professional. Some factors, Internal Revenue Service cuts, paradoxically, that can lead to more need for professionals, since the Internal Revenue Service becomes harder to contact and starts making more mistakes, like sending people erroneous letters. Even if federal audits are down, often states do more because their budgets are strapped. New tax laws almost always lead to more demand for us, and recessions often come with aid programs run through the tax code, so we end up administering them. Recession hustles, a lot of people start working side jobs where they receive 1099 forms or are self-employed, and the taxes on those are more complicated compared to just having a W-2 form. Supply. The industry has been losing people to retirement who aren't being replaced because it's not a very attractive industry. Every tax professional I know who has been in business for a while is inundated, so even if demand slides a little, we will still be okay. On the other side, sometimes clients can't afford me. This can be a problem, especially since the niche of people I work with often get hit hard in a downturn. I often lose my basic return clients because having someone prepare a return for them they could really handle themselves is a luxury. But it is usually made up for with new clients whose situations have gotten more complicated. All in all, I'm optimistic for now. For me though, not the country. The situation is not good. Story 77. I am a public defender handling contempt for non-payment of child support and involuntary mental hygiene commitments. On the child support side, many of my clients are struggling to find employment or suffering from substance use issues. Many have disabilities that prevent them from working but are unable to get Social Security disability insurance benefits. Even those who do usually face multiple years of applications and appeals. On the mental hygiene side, my clients tend to be homeless and lack access to resources to help manage their conditions without someone resorting to the drastic step of a commitment petition. Substance abuse is also widespread among these clients. Several have been through the process repeatedly, and I receive a new petition for them every few months. The commitment is intended as a temporary method to stabilize them so they do not present a danger to themselves or others. However, I have at least one client who has been in the hospital for nearly 6 months. Another client was just committed to the hospital despite credible evidence he does not have an actual mental illness. Instead, he has a traumatic brain injury, which is outside the scope of the statute that governs the process. He also has an adult protective services caseworker. He had been in a general hospital for nearly 9 months, and the caseworker was unable to find anywhere to place him due to aggressive and violent behavior. They applied to every possible option in the state and were denied by all, and they were beginning to consider out-of-state placement. None of these issues have been improving, and I believe the state will likely devote even less of the budget to addressing them in the coming years. Story 78. Retired for 5 years and doing okay. 30 years in a union job at a state university. Living expenses are paid from pension and Social Security. Medical and dental costs are still covered by the employer. Living in California is expensive, but because labor is such a strong lobby here, there is no chance of losing benefits. Story 79. I am unable to assist with that request. Story 80. Small and medium-sized business operators constrained by chaos in the economy. Larger organizations growing through consolidation. Many business owners aged 65 to 72 are selling to ambitious individuals aged 40 to 53. Story 81. Oil and gas Waha system in the Permian Basin of Texas. It is distressing. Story 82. Transportation. Conditions are poor and expected to worsen before they improve. Story 83. I work in information technology supporting bioscience laboratories. There is a lot of messenger ribonucleic acid research. It is concerning. We are past the immediate repercussions, and I am not on the business side, but we seem to be losing clients faster than we are gaining new ones. People are definitely hesitant to spend money on new projects due to the uncertainty in the market. Story 84. I work at a waterside seafood restaurant in the Northeast. International guests are almost non-existent, and complaints about our prices have increased. Our sales are up over 20% year-over-year despite poor weather during the first month of our busy season. My anecdotal theory is that most summer renters have removed all the cookware so the stove and kitchen are clean to show to prospective buyers renting for the weekend. Story 85. I am a researcher. I had a team of 6, but all except one have been laid off. It is absolutely heartbreaking that I cannot help such bright young people continue their careers. Kills me. I am trying to do everything I can to help them, but it seems every organization is going through the same situation. Story 86. The situation in technology is challenging. Layoffs are widespread, and remaining employees are expected to work intensively. I know people who were laid off last year and are still unemployed. Tariffs are creating significant uncertainty, causing people to avoid spending money on anything beyond essentials such as housing, food, and bills. I am very concerned about the future given the current trends. Story 87. Finally left teaching because it was exhausting. I got into collectibles and consulting, helping people determine if their old comic books are valuable. The market has collapsed due to the chaos. I was able to sell a copy of Fantastic Four issue number 1 graded 7.0, but it sold for about 30% less than it would have last year. I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning to cry. Story 88. Biotech scientists face a bleak outlook. The sector has been in a slump since investment dried up after COVID-19. Currently, the situation is worsened by tariffs and unpredictability in the regulatory environment, with the Food and Drug Administration in turmoil. In the long term, there is concern about the erosion of federally funded research. Competition from China is steadily increasing, and this administration appears content to cede the sector. Story 89, working class consumer here. Food is very expensive. Every week, we cut something out and still spend more. Every week. Story 90. I work for a plastic manufacturing company. We have already shut down one production line at an asset. They are debating shutting down more. There is a hiring freeze and no salary increases. We are cutting expenses and capital expenditures as much as possible. The best case for the year is turning a small profit, but we will probably lose money. Story 91. I work in civil rights advocacy. Everything is on fire, but we cannot hire more people to try to put it out. Story 92. Grocery prices are up across the board. Beef has skyrocketed in price. Produce as well. Eggs recovered in price a couple of months ago, but they are creeping up again. I have been stockpiling winter foods now because I know that in the fall, it will be much more expensive. Story 93. I am in liquor sales and we are experiencing a significant decline. A few years ago, I was earning between $2,250 to $2,500 on Fridays and Saturdays. Currently, I am fortunate to make $1,200 on weekends. Story 94. Work for an information technology consulting company. Solid sales and projects. Most teams are booked for another 18 months or more. Small number of new hires. The company is expanding with another sister company. We do not do operations work. We focus on infrastructure design and implementation, automation, robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, IT forensics, programming, and coding. We work with clients on projects. Our work is fast-paced, and contracts earn bonuses for completing projects early. We do not stay on projects longer than necessary. We finish early with great quality, earn significant bonuses, and move to the next client. We do not extend timelines or add extra features to increase customer costs. For example, my last project involved open-source private cloud design to migrate 85,000 servers, data, networking, and security objects from Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services. I completed this project in 18 weeks, migrated everything to new private cloud data centers, and earned almost $4 million in bonuses. Finished and moved on to the next project. As you can imagine, the company is in demand. We receive a lot of referrals from Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and other big technology companies. We are hiring a few top-end engineers. Story 95. I work in industrial automation in Europe. I would say things are as good as ever. If business is low for our customers, they upgrade existing equipment. If business is good, they expand production with new equipment. Our customers in infrastructure always have maintenance needs, providing continuous work. During recessions, government spending on infrastructure increases, resulting in more work for us. Story 96. I left my telecommunications job in April after 15 years working on fiber backhaul because the constant mergers and layoffs were demoralizing. I grew tired of dealing with so many people who lacked critical thinking skills and did not care about doing a good job. Now I trade stock options for income, and my biggest risk is that the United States collapses and the New York Stock Exchange stops functioning. It pays a little less because I brought less operating capital to the table than I would have liked. However, I no longer have 3 bosses telling me that a customer updated a ticket and I need to reply for performance metrics while I am actively on the phone with the same customer who called to say they sent me an email. I got tired of corporate nonsense and human nonsense, so I opted out. The ship is going down, and I want at least a little freedom while it does. Story 97. I work in biotechnology and pharmaceuticals. It is the worst I have seen it in my 25 years of experience. I do not see it turning around anytime soon. Story 98. We are growing rapidly and cannot hire enough insurance attorneys. Story 99. I am in construction engineering. We are focusing on data center work, but not much else. If data center projects decline, we will face significant difficulties. Story 100. I have worked in technology for almost 30 years and I have not seen it this bad since the dot-com crash. It has been like this since mid-2022. I would describe it as substantially worse than the global financial crisis. I have been passively to actively looking for a new job for nearly 3 years with no end in sight. My income is not enough to keep us afloat. Our insurance is poor, and we run a deficit of tens of thousands of dollars a year. Story 101. I work for a manufacturer in the building industry. They are planning layoffs soon. I do not know if I will have a job in a month. Story 102. Awful. No overtime anymore. My rent 4 years ago was 1/4 of my income. Now it is almost half. It is creeping up to 1/2 due to a combination of being paid less and rents going up. Story 103. I work for a nonprofit organization in a politically liberal state. Thankfully, we are fully funded by state grants, so we have not experienced any budget cuts so far. I am not sure if this will continue for the current fiscal year, but up to this point, things have been fine. Story 104. Luxury goods sales are down and bleak, but people will not admit it. Story 105. I work in the internet service provider industry. Most people's home internet connection is as close to a utility as you can get without it being a utility, so things are pretty normal right now. Story 106. I am retired and waiting for my investments to decline. I can handle a 25 to 30% loss, but more than that, I will have to alter my plans. I am still in a much better position than most. Story 107. I work in the aerospace industry, and it is getting busier. I feel like the last 2 years have been quite crazy with how much demand our shop has had. Story 108. I am 20 years old. I do not know, I am probably too drunk and too young, but I hate this. I want it to end. I have spent probably 8 minutes typing this. I am tired and want it to end. Story 109. Marijuana. People will always want to buy marijuana. It is the rest of the economy that is the issue. Story 110. Utterly devastated. My 200-employee small business just closed. I was a manager making $40 an hour, and jobs that match my skill set and experience want to pay me $18. It's unbelievable. Story 111. Electrical engineer for an architectural firm. Excessively busy with no end in sight to being busy, which is preferable to the alternative, I guess. This whole year, my major projects have focused on new stores for a major grocery chain and new distribution warehouses for a major fast food chain that is moving east. A handful of government healthcare projects take a long time to get going. All in all, according to our chief financial officer during our monthly meetings, we are on track for a great year. We have also been actively hiring for around a year or so now with little turnover. Our firm is growing to meet demand, and it does not look like it will end anytime soon. Story 112. Restaurant industry. People are going out much less and spending less. Many places in my city are closing or operating with skeleton crews. There are 4 of us, including the owner. Costs for many items are increasing, and some things are being skipped, which is causing dining experiences to worsen. Story 113. Battery technology. Electric vehicle demand has been slow, with many companies reluctant to invest in startups and new technologies. This has been challenging for small companies in consumer hardware technology. However, the demand for drone, military technology, and soldier power batteries has skyrocketed in the last 18 months. Customers are eager for more cells and are investing heavily in anything they believe will provide a technological advantage on the battlefield. Story 114. Entry-level information technology professional here. Retired military with 20 years of service. After leaving the military, I earned my bachelor's degree and obtained the Computing Technology Industry Association A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus certifications, along with additional qualifications. I applied for about 150 jobs and received 3 or 4 interviews. I am about to start a 12-week internship for minimum wage because I have no other offers. It is rough out there, but I am hoping to make the best out of any opportunity one can. Story 115. Retail has been challenging until summer. It actually feels like people are spending money again. Last summer was definitely much worse. Story 116. Brick and mortar retail shops selling children's toys are experiencing a decline in sales. Many people claim that small toy stores no longer exist while they continue shopping on large online marketplaces. Advertising on social media seems ineffective, as consumers are overwhelmed by ads everywhere they look. Tariffs are increasing costs, and ultimately the consumer bears the burden. The fourth quarter is expected to be challenging in terms of pricing and supply. If there is something you are considering buying for someone, it is advisable to purchase it now. People in this industry are accustomed to long hours, low pay, and a mix of silliness and fun. However, the fun has diminished, leaving mostly challenges. Fast fashion trends have extended to toys, resulting in lower quality, shrinkflation, toys generated using artificial intelligence, and rising subscription fees for apps. The current environment is far from enjoyable. Many customers desire popular brands and products such as Labubu, blind boxes seen as problematic gambling, and Lego, which operates on very low margins. Toys R Us is attempting a comeback, but many wish it would remain defunct. The market is saturated with repetitive products like squishy fidgets, which, despite being enjoyable, now feel uninspired and monotonous. Story 117. My place of employment experienced a shooting for the first time. This has affected my health. Story 118. We build custom shipping containers for the aerospace industry. Our main product is helicopter blade containers, but we also build containers for satellites, hypersonic missiles, and everything in between, all customized to customer specifications. We expect a 30 to 40% reduction this year. Story 119. Aluminum manufacturing is a mixed situation. We were receiving more orders because tariffs are driving customers back to us, but the cost of our raw material, primary aluminum, is extremely high. We are in a tight pinch. We cannot raise our prices because then our customers will not see the point of returning to American manufacturers, but our costs are soaring. Transportation and automotive sectors are flattening, so the initial surge of orders is beginning to decline. I think we will probably experience fluctuations as the industries we serve initially come back, but then reduce orders as consumer spending slows down. Additionally, it is difficult to keep our maintenance department well stocked with parts to service the equipment because most are manufactured overseas, causing those costs to also increase sharply. We cannot undermaintain the equipment or risk more downtime, so we are pinched there as well. There are rumors of white-collar layoffs to help lower costs. Spending on non-essential items has decreased, although some are truly essential. Many expansion projects have been shelved for now. Travel has been reduced. Several positions are not being filled as employees leave, and staff are trying to manage multiple responsibilities. I am not sure how we will look in the next couple of years. Story 120. I work for a company that manufactures engines for backup generators used to power data centers. We are experiencing record-high profits with orders at full capacity for the next few years. Despite tariffs, we are thriving like never before. Unfortunately, it seems everyone here has tunnel vision, and we are scaling up to more than double our usual production size without properly evaluating the long-term market. Story 121. I used to work at an industrial decarbonization startup. Now I do not. Story 122. I own a recruiting firm. I started the business over 10 years ago. Our business is down about 70% from the average for this time of year. We have clients in every sector of the economy. That seems to reflect much of the sentiment in this discussion. Story 123. I work for a small technology company. Sales are down. Revenue is down. Subscribers are canceling frequently, but management says things are okay. They are hopeful things will get better next year and have built that hope into next year's projections. I have been there and done that, and it is wishful thinking. I am prepared to be let go or to quit. Story 124. Work for a subcontractor at Cleveland Cliffs Steel Mill. It is very slow with no investment other than the bare minimum. Story 125. I work in the retirement industry. Deferrals to retirement plans are declining along with completely opting out. On top of that, loans and hardship withdrawals are increasing as well. We are just starting to see this, but plan sponsors have started reducing their matching formulas. I work with a couple of large casinos, and these changes are pronounced with them. I can only infer these metrics indicate how tightly workers are being squeezed and how employers are finding ways to pass along their increased expenses. I have seen this pattern before, and it is basically just kicking the can down the road. Story 126. I'm a teacher returning to work without a contract. A schedule change has me teaching 50 more students each semester than I did 5 years ago. The district will not replace my old novels from the 1980s that are falling apart. Story 127. I am a civil servant for state government. I make low money for the amount of work I have to do, but I am double covered on health insurance, so I rarely pay anything out of pocket. We are so busy that we were one of the few agencies that received funding to hire more people. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, we were a relatively small office. Since then, we have quadrupled our staff and are working on hiring at least 15 more employees. Fortunately, we have been able to hire many people who were let go by the federal government. Personally, we just paid off our only car loan, and our house will be paid off in the next 5 years. My retirement fund has declined, but I will probably face other challenges before reaching retirement age. Story 128. It feels like everyone is trying to do more with less, facing tight budgets, higher expectations, and significant burnout. Story 129. Stainless steel processing. We have seen a serious increase in demand from our mill due to Section 232 tariffs. Without finished products coming into the country, many of our mills and clients have had to source metal domestically. They are, however, anticipating a slowdown at the end of this year. We recently had a woman from the Federal Reserve visit and ask questions about employment. She said that their internal employment data is much more bleak than the data the Bureau of Labor Statistics has released. She was very worried about the 17 to 26-year-old demographic in particular. Story 130. Heavy equipment and machinery use is not good. Factories are operating at best 50% capacity 2 to 3 days a week. On other days, it is 25%. In previous years, the operation was at 100%, rarely below 85%. Vendors are not purchasing. Equipment replacement contracts are not being renewed or are being extended from 3 years to 4 or 5 years. Consumers are not buying or performing property or home construction. Story 131. As a retiree with a pension, it is fair. Inflation is the enemy of those on a fixed income, especially when the cost of living adjustment is less than actual inflation, which is often the case because the government adjusts it accordingly. Story 132. This is an interesting question to ask and see the answers for. I have seen both good and bad responses for the same categories. Story 133. For the last 12 years, I have worked a niche job in reality television. Reality television has declined by approximately 75% since 2020. I have not worked in almost a year and have been applying to jobs outside of television nonstop with no luck. Story 134. Life is difficult. However, I am a childless adult and responsible only for myself. I truly sympathize with my brother and other parents across our country. I also did not plan well, so I am affected by the challenges of late-stage capitalism. I am moving to a larger, liberal city to have some enjoyment before everything deteriorates or I face hardship. Story 135. Fantastic, because in this century, no matter how much everything else is messed up, people still need their phones, internet, and connectivity. Story 136. Growing, but with a strange the other shoe is going to drop mentality. I am in a red state. We are funded by state and federal medical insurance. Things are going better than my boss and I ever anticipated, but conservatives could totally destroy it and facilitate the deaths of thousands if they end those programs for cancer and kidney failure patients, pretty much at their leisure. Story 137. I work in the art market at an auction house. After the astronomical highs of 2021 and 2022, the market has seriously declined, and this year is especially bleak with little hope in sight. No one wants to sell at the moment, as keeping your money tied in art is seen as a safer place than liquid capital, or so I have been told. Story 138. In this thread, some industries are good, some industries are bad, and some people did not understand that the point of the thread is to state what sector you are in. Story 139. I am a functional director at a global nonprofit organization focused on STEM and highly technical advanced engineering fields. There is tremendous growth potential in our specific domain, but significant negative impact from the Trump Dogecoin fiasco, tariff prospects, and pre-existing market conditions affecting certain large markets where we are present, notably the United States and Germany. Corporations have already drastically reduced their professional development budgets and demand a strong return on investment when considering partnerships and sponsorships. There is less company-sponsored travel to events and conferences as well. Increasingly, individuals report having less disposable income to pay dues or obtain certifications. Our core domains, defense, aerospace, automotive, and advanced manufacturing, are all experiencing instability. The situation is particularly severe in the United States, where companies are holding on to money more tightly than ever. In Europe, conditions are more optimistic. Certain companies such as Saab, Rheinmetall, and Thales appear very profitable. The European automotive sector is struggling, but overall, there is substantial growth potential everywhere. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.